I never thought my marriage would unravel 30,000 feet above the ground. My name's Emily, I'm 22, and I thought I had found the love of my life. Daniel, my husband, is charming, successful, and always traveling for business. I used to feel proud. When he told people his job kept him jet-setting across the world, I believed him when he said late-night meetings and last-minute trips were just part of the grind. But life has a cruel way of showing you the truth when you least expect it. My older sister, Claire, is a pilot. She's bold, fearless, and the type who never sugarcoats reality. One chilly Friday evening, while I was curled up on the couch waiting for Daniel's I landed safely text, my phone buzzed with a message from her. At first I thought it would be something casual, like, hey, I'm flying into New York tomorrow. Let's grab coffee. Instead, what I saw made my stomach drop. Emily, I think I just saw Daniel on my flight, but he's not alone. I read it 3 times, my heart racing. Alone? He told me he was headed to a conference in Chicago, not Paris. I immediately dialed her, but the call cut off before she could answer. My hands shook. I could barely breathe. As minutes dragged by, I felt my whole reality slipping away. What if she was mistaken? Maybe it was a look, or maybe he upgraded someone else from his company in a cent, right? I clung to any excuse that would protect my fragile trust. Then another text buzzed in. My sister had risked sneaking a glance back into business class when the passengers were distracted. It's him, Emily, and he's holding another woman's hand. The room spun. I pressed the phone against my chest, as if that would stop my heart from cracking in two. I wanted to scream, to deny it, to throw my phone across the room. Instead, I just sat frozen, staring at the wall like my world had turned black. Claire knew me too well. Minutes later, another message lit up the screen. Do you want me to get a picture? You need to see this with your own eyes. I hesitated, torn between wanting proof and fearing it would destroy me. But before I could type back, a blurred photo appeared. It wasn't clear just the back of Daniel's head, the curve of his shoulders, and a woman leaning close to him, her glossy hair spilling over her seat. Even though her face wasn't visible, the intimacy was undeniable. They weren't colleagues, they weren't strangers, they were something else. Tears burned my eyes as I whispered, "Why, Daniel? Why?" I should have been furious, but in that moment, I just felt hollow. I was 22, freshly married, and already living inside a nightmare I didn't sign up for. Then Claire sent one last text before she had to focus back on flying. I'll tell you everything when I land, but Emily, you need to prepare yourself. The woman he's with, she doesn't look like some random stranger. My blood ran cold. What did that mean? Did I know her? Was she someone from his office? Or worse, someone from my life? The floor beneath me seemed to vanish. And in that hollow silence, one terrifying thought echoed in my mind. The betrayal might cut even deeper than I imagined. I barely slept that night. My sister's words replayed in my head like a broken record. She doesn't look like some random stranger. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined Daniel leaning closer to a faceless woman, whispering, laughing, touching her hand like he used to touch mine. By morning, my paranoia had turned into an Olympic sport. I scrolled through Daniel's Instagram like a detective on a caffeine overdose. Every business trip photo looked staged, like he was smiling for an invisible jury. His captions felt suddenly sinister. Another day, another flight, another flight. With who? Daniel? At breakfast, I poured cereal but forgot the milk. Halfway through chewing dry flakes, I laughed at myself, dark, bitter laughter. Perfect. Even my breakfast is falling apart like my marriage. The irony wasn't lost on me. Married for barely 2 years, and I was already starring in my own reality show, except the cameras were invisible, and the plot twist was real betrayal. Finally, Claire called. Her voice was steady, but I could hear the weight behind it. I know what I saw. Daniel wasn't just sitting beside her. He was comfortable, intimate. He touched her hair. He ordered champagne for her. They looked happy. Happy? I choked on the word. He told me he hates champagne. We both went quiet, and then, against all reason, we laughed. It was ridiculous of all the lies. Him secretly loving champagne felt like a personal insult, but the laughter died quickly. Claire, I whispered, do you think I know her? There was a pause. Then, carefully, she said, Emily. Her profile, her style, it reminded me of someone, but I need to be sure. I don't want to crush you without evidence. My stomach twisted. Someone I knew, a friend, a neighbor, a coworker? Later that afternoon, Daniel finally texted me. Landed safe. Meetings will run late. Don't wait up. Meetings? In Chicago? My fingers itched to type. How's Paris, honey? Instead, I played along. Okay, love. Don't work too hard. It felt fake, like I was playing chess against a man who didn't even know. I'd learned the rules. The following day, Claire and I met at a cafe downtown. She slid into the booth, ordered coffee, black like oisin, pulled out her phone. I managed to get a clearer picture when passengers were boarding. She showed me the screen. My heart slammed against my ribs. The woman's face was turned slightly, but I knew that jawline, those perfectly arched brows. It was Lily, my best friend, the girl who toasted at my wedding, who held my hand when I cried about college dress, who swore she'd always have my back. I almost dropped the phone. No. This is Photoshop. A deepfake? Something. Anything. But it wasn't. It was real. My sister reached across the table. Emily, I'm sorry, but this is just the start. I overheard something while passing through the cabin. They weren't just talking about Paris. They were talking about moving. Moving? As in together. The world tilted. My best friend, my husband, planning a new life while I was at home eating cereal without milk. For a split second, rage boiled so hot I wanted to march into Daniel's office and dump a suitcase of his clothes in the lobby. Then, just as quickly, a twisted kind of humor bubbled up. I leaned back in the booth, smirking through the tears. Well, at least now I know why Lily stopped paying me back for all those lattes. She was saving for Paris. Claire snorted. Guess she found herself a better frequent flyer program. We laughed, but it was the kind of laughter that hurt, sharp, and bitter. I wasn't just betrayed, I was played by my own husband. By my own friend. And now, I wasn't sure which betrayal cut deeper. But one thing was clear. I couldn't keep playing nice. Because this game, it wasn't over. By the time Daniel returned home, I had already rehearsed the confrontation 100 times in my head. Should I scream, cry, throw his suitcase out the window, like in the movies? Instead, when he walked through the door, rolling his shiny carry-on like nothing was wrong, I smiled. Hey honey, I said sweetly. How was Chicago? He froze for a second, barely noticeable, but I caught it. His eyes flicked away, then back to me. Busy? Long meetings. You know how it is. I said, a glass of water in front of him. You must be tired from all that work. For a moment, I thought he'd choke on the water. But no, Daniel was smooth. Too smooth. He loosened his tie, kissed my cheek, and asked what I'd had for dinner. That was the moment I realized he wasn't going to confess. Not unless I forced him. So I played dumb. For days, I laughed at his jokes. I cooked his favorite meals. But every time he looked at me, I saw Lily's face in my mind. My best friend, my maid of honor, sitting in business class, sipping champagne with my husband. One evening, I told him I wanted a girls' night with Lily. He didn't even flinch. Great idea, he said, scrolling through his phone. You two haven't hung out in a while. I bit back a bitter laugh. Oh, we'd hung out, all right just with me, not in the room. When I texted Lily, she replied instantly, can't tonight, babe? Work stuff. Rain check. Work stuff, right? I nearly smashed my phone against the wall. The next twist came from my sister. She called me late at night, whispering like she was in a spy movie. Emily, listen. Daniel and Lily aren't just sneaking around. They're planning something bigger. I overheard more on the flight. They mentioned a bank account. Joint in Paris. A joint account. In Paris? My chest tightened. Not only was he cheating, he was building a whole new life with my best friend while pretending to tuck me into the old one. I knew I couldn't keep quiet. So, the next morning, I set the stage. Coffee brewing, calm music playing. And then I dropped the bomb. Daniel, I said lightly, stirring my mug, how's Paris? The spoon clattered from his hand. He stared at me like I'd spoken another language. What? You heard me. I leaned in, smiling like a cat cornering a mouse. How's Paris? How's Lily? For a moment, he said nothing. His jaw tightened, his eyes darkened, and then he laughed. Actually laughed. Emily, come on. You've been watching too many soap operas. Paris, Lily, that's insane. Oh, I slid my phone across the table. The photo glowed on the screen. Hand brushing against? Lily's funny because my sister doesn't usually confuse passengers, especially when one of them is her brother-in-law. His face drained of color. For the first time, Daniel looked cornered. You don't understand, he stammered. It's not what it looks like. I tilted my head. Really? Because it looks exactly like my husband and my best friend. Planning a romantic getaway, maybe even a new life. Silence. His silence was louder than any confession. Finally, he whispered, I can explain. But I wasn't sure I wanted an explanation. Because deep down, I already knew whatever his excuse. It wouldn't erase the truth. And just as he opened his mouth to spin another lie, my phone buzzed. It was Claire. You need to come to the airport. Now, I just saw them Agnan this time. You won't believe what they're carrying. I barely grabbed my jacket before racing out the door. My sister's text haunted me the whole drive. You won't believe what they're carrying. My heart hammered as I sped to the airport, every red light feeling like an eternity. When I finally spotted Claire near the arrivals gate, her expression said everything. Serious, heavy, almost scared. She whispered, pulling me aside. I wasn't supposed to be anywhere near their gate, but I had to check. They weren't just arriving. They were leaving again, together, and they weren't traveling light. I frowned. Suitcases? She nodded. Not just clothes. I overheard Lily talking. They were carrying documents, legal ones. Something about property. And your name came up. My name? My stomach twisted. What do you mean my name? Claire bit her lip. I think they're trying to move money. Maybe even put something under both their names. Emily, this isn't just an affair. This is theft. Betrayal on a whole other level. I staggered back, my knees weak. Not only had Daniel stolen my trust, he was plotting to steal my future. My savings, my security, everything I'd worked for. I wanted to scream in the middle of the airport. Instead, I forced a smile for passing strangers while whispering to my sister. I need proof. Solid proof. Enough to ruin him if I have to. Claire nodded. Then follow me. I already got you closer than you think. She led me to a small cafe inside the terminal. She pointed discreetly. There they were. Daniel and Lily, laughing, leaning in close. Like a couple starring in their own romantic comedy, except in my eyes, it was a horror film. And then I saw it. The suitcase Daniel set down beside him. Bright red, scuffed on the edges, but unmistakable. Mine? My suitcase. The one I used when I visited my mom last year. My blood ran cold. That's mine. Claire's eyes widened. So, it's true. He's not just cheating. He's moving your life out from under you. At that moment, Lily leaned closer to Daniel, her voice just loud enough for me to catch. Once we sign, there's no going back. She'll never know until it's too late. I almost bolted from my seat, ready to storm over and tear the entire airport apart. But Claire grabbed my wrist. Not here. Not now. If you explode, they'll cover their tracks. Let them think they're ahead. We'll trap them when they least expect it. I sank back into my chair, shaking. My whole body burned with fury, but beneath it was a strange sense of calm. For the first time, I wasn't just the broken wife. I was the hunter. On the drive home, I almost laughed at the irony. Daniel had always teased me about being too young to play grown-up, too naive, too trusting. But now I was about to show him exactly how grown-up I could be. By the time I reached my apartment, I had a plan. First, gather every scrap of evidence. The photos, the texts, the overheard conversations. Second, lock down my bank accounts before he drained them dry. And third, wait for the perfect moment to strike. I looked at myself in the mirror, messy hair, red eyes, trembling hands, and whispered, "You're stronger than this. You're not the victim. Not anymore." Just then, my phone buzzed again. Another message from Claire. "Be ready tomorrow." I found out where they're really going. And trust me, it's not Paris this time. My grip tightened around the phone. If it wasn't Paris, then where? And more importantly, why were they running now? One thing was certain, the game had changed. And I was done playing nice. The next morning, I sat on the edge of my bed, my phone clutched tight like it held the last thread of my sanity. Claire's message had shaken me. Not Paris this time. When she finally called, her voice was low, urgent. "Emily, I checked the flight logs. They're not headed to Paris. They're booked for Las Vegas." Vegas? I nearly laughed. So what? They're having a gambling honeymoon. But Claire didn't laugh. Not exactly. I overheard them talking about marriage licenses. Property transfers? Emily. They might be planning to make it official. Fast? I froze. Marriage licenses? That wasn't just betrayal, that was annihilation. The ink on my marriage certificate with Daniel wasn't even 2 years old. And here he was, plotting to marry my best friend in a city where love and lies go hand in hand. Anger blazed through me. He wants to erase me like I never existed. Not a chance. Claire chuckled darkly. That's the spirit. You're 22M. You've got your whole life ahead of you. Don't let this jerk write your story. Write your own. I smiled grimly.
Oh, I will.
But first, I'm going to rewrite his. That evening, I pretended everything was normal. Daniel strutted around the apartment, humming like a man with no worries in the world. He even kissed my forehead before saying, "I'll be gone for a couple days." "Big conference out west?" "Of course," I replied, forcing a sweet smile. "Knock 'em dead." Inside, though, my blood boiled. "Knock yourself out, Daniel." As soon as he left, I packed my own bag, not with dresses or shoes, but with evidence. Claire's photos, screenshots of texts, my bank statements. I wasn't going to Vegas for revenge. I was going for justice. The flight was short, but my nerves stretched every second into hours. When I landed, Claire was already waiting. Her pilot uniform traded for jeans and a leather jacket. "You sure about this?" she asked. I nodded. More than ever, we followed them from the airport like shadows, keeping our distance. Daniel, smug as ever, strolled hand in hand with Lily. She wore a white sundress, the kind you'd wear to a beach wedding. Her laughter grating against my ears. At one point, they stopped in front of a neon-lit chapel. Tomorrow, I overheard Lily giggle. Tomorrow, we'll finally be free. Free. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. Free from me, apparently. Free to steal my husband, my money, my life. But here's the twist they didn't see coming. I wasn't some clueless 22-year-old anymore. I was ready. That night, in a dingy Vegas motel, Claire and I mapped out the plan. You don't just confront them, she said. You corner them. Make sure the world sees who they really are. She handed me a small recording device. Catch every word. Once you have it, he won't be able to gaslight you. Not in court. Not in life. I took it. My hand's steady now. Tomorrow, they won't just see me as Emily. The young wife they could outsmart. They'll see me as their worst nightmare. Sleep didn't come easy. But when it did, I dreamed of fire. Fire-consuming lies, fire lighting my path forward. By morning, I was ready. Dressed in black, my hair pulled back tight, I barely recognized the girl in the mirror. I wasn't broken anymore. I was steel. Claire gave me a nod before we left. Time to crash a wedding. And as I stepped into the blazing Vegas sun, one thought pulsed through my veins. If Daniel wanted a show, then a show he would get. But this time, I'm the one writing the final act. The Vegas sun beat down as I walked toward the chapel, every nerve in my body thrumming like a live wire. Inside, I could already hear faint music, wedding bells playing for a love built on lies. My chest tightened, but instead of breaking, I felt stronger. This was it. Claire stayed outside, ready with her phone camera. Go get him in, she whispered. I pushed open the doors, and there they were. Daniel stood at the altar, his smug smile plastered on like a mask. Lily, my best friend, floated in white like some bargain bin bride. They turned in unison, their faces paling as if they'd seen a ghost. Emily, Daniel sputtered. Oh, don't stop on my account, I said sweetly. Please, continue. I'd love to hear your vows. The guests' view as they were shifted uncomfortably. An old couple in the front row whispered to each other. A board officiant adjusted his glasses. And then I pulled out the tiny recorder, clicking it on. Maybe I'll play back a few lines first, I added. Like once we sign? She'll never know until it's too late. Recognize that one, Daniel. Or how about tomorrow we'll finally be free, Lily. That was your line, right? Gasps echoed in the room. Lily's face went crimson. Daniel's turned ashen. He took a step forward, hands raised. Emily, you don't understand. No, I snapped, my voice cutting through the air. I understand perfectly. You stole my trust, my love, my money, and you tried to replace me with the woman I called my sister. But here's the thing, Daniel. I held up my phone, the camera light blinking red. The world's about to understand too. Claire barged in then, phone raised high, recording everything. The officiant cleared his throat, muttering, well, I suppose this ceremony is canceled. The guests chuckled nervously. Lily hissed at Daniel. You said she'd never find out. Daniel turned on her, snapping, and you said you could keep your mouth shut. And just like that, they were tearing each other apart in front of everyone. Betrayal, devouring betrayal. I almost laughed at the pathetic sight, my husband and my best friend. Exposed not by force, but by their own greed. I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only they could hear. You two thought you were boarding a flight to freedom. But this is your final boarding call. The plane's grounded. The show's over. Then I turned on my heel and walked out, the Vegas heat greeting me like applause. Claire followed, slipping her arm around me. You did it, she said softly. No, I replied, my voice steady. We did it. You saved me the moment you sent that first message. You gave me wings when he tried to clip them. We walked away together, leaving Daniel and Lily to choke on the ashes of their own lies. That night, as I packed for home, I caught my reflection in the mirror. For the first time in months, I didn't see a broken 22-year-old girl. I saw a woman, strong, fierce, unstoppable. And I realized something powerful. Betrayal doesn't define you. It frees you. Because once you've lost everything fake, you finally see what's real. So here's my truth. For anyone who's ever been lied to, don't beg for love where it doesn't exist. Don't cry over doors that close. Sometimes, the betrayal that breaks you is the very thing that saves you. Because loyalty, family, and those are worth more than any luxury flight to Paris or Vegas. And Daniel, well, let's just say his ticket was one way. Straight out of my life, forever.